And so to put it in sort of a specific scenario, we say so somebody following the recommendations of this task force, a therapist has a client that presents and says, I feel like I have same-sex attraction, but it's unwanted, and it's unwanted probably, I could say, because of my religious beliefs and the meaning.
Being married?
Married.
Or wanted to marry?
Yeah. There's a moral component to why I sort of don't want to have them or experience them, and therefore I would like to pursue some sort of conversion therapy. How would a therapist sort of engage with that client, but in following the recommendation?
Question, not question as in challenge, but seek to understand. So humanistic client-centered therapy interventions are about trying to co-construct and build an understanding together with the individual about their experiences. So it would be trying to understand, why do you want to? What is unwanted about your attractions? What has been your sexual experiences, your sexual identity development? What information do you not know about sexuality that I could offer you? It's also talking about the possibility that it may not change, and there's no research to say that one can change, but let's explore those individuals who say that they can change. So it would be facilitating exploration, so helping the individual to read maybe literature on that one can change, reading literature on how the one cannot change. But the therapy process would not be about necessarily telling the person what to do or what to be, but facilitating exploration, facilitating evaluation, re-evaluation.
So, but again, if the client presents and says, well, I'm coming to you because I want this to be about conversion therapy, again, everything you've just said, I perceive they would do, but I mean, is there a recommendation that a therapist state right up front, like, that's not going to happen in here? Or?
Well, you could, but I don't think that's going to engage the client. That actually may invoke more hopelessness with the client, because the client may be so at his wit's end that they have to have some sort of hope. They may be so overwhelmed with everything that they're looking for something to believe in. So to say right off the bat, sorry, you can't have what you want, that could be very discouraging. So it is just still trying to engage them and connect with them and relate to them in a very validating, honest, realistic way, without promising things that we can't promise. Psychologists, therapists, we're not cosmetologists. That's, as one researcher scholar said, that just because you come to me, I don't just give you what you want. Yes, but that I use my knowledge of science to inform my practices. And so if I just try to give you what you want to make you happy, I'm not being a psychologist. I'm being a people pleaser, or I'm, again, colluding with bias. So it is really trying to use, to build a therapeutic relationship based on transparency and honesty and information, to try to, again, come to collaborate on certain goals that would be more realistic. So it could be that I would talk with a client of, let's explore more about, is it possible for you to change? So the goal would be exploration, not the goal would be making you into a heterosexual. The goal would not be about changing your sexuality, but the goal would be about a process of again, exploration.
Exploring and learning and understanding.
And then the more we know more about what's possible for you, then you can make decisions.
Right, from a healthy place. Informed.
Informed, comprehensive, integrated.
Yeah. So what have been some of the main criticisms that maybe would have the most leverage, if any, of the recommendations? What are they based on?
Well, because we say that there's no evidence that you can change sexual orientation. Well, then they say, well, there's no evidence that you can't change sexual orientation. It's almost like the same thing of atheists. When atheists say there's no evidence there's God, and then the religious people say, well, there's no evidence there is no evidence that there is no God. So that's one piece of we're going to keep on trying because there's no evidence that you cannot change.
Yeah.
But that again is problematic because there is some reports that it's harmful.
Okay.
Again, if you look at the bigger picture, the interventions don't match about what we do know about sexual orientation or sexuality.
Yeah.
Other critics would be that we all were gay activists and we all had this gay agenda, and that there were no way that we could be objective. But that criticism doesn't fit with the process of what we went through.
Yeah.
So it was it wasn't a groupthink mentality on the task force, and we really did have a chance to question and because there were not necessarily extreme thinking, but there were strong standpoints, that there was a sense of developing something different than we set out to do. The end result was not what we began with, the way how we first thought about it. And also that the task force's recommendations and report had to go through all of the divisions of the governance of APA and get their approval or get feedback from them. So there was a sense of peer review, and people who were in a sense invested in it being a certain way or not a certain way, we got feedback from that. Yeah. So there was a sense of not compromise, but a sense of check and balance of what we were saying. That
transparency too.
And transparency, that it was grounded in science that we know of.
Yeah.
So I think it was the best effort that we could with what science research that we do have, hoping that there would be more studies that would give us more data. Right. But since there's not, don't go beyond the data. Yeah. So in a sense, being conservative in what we do, let's just stick with validating and providing information, providing affirmation, and providing skills to manage stress.
Yeah. And so, again, one of the main leveraging points of your recommendations was that it can, not only is there not science to back up claims and so on, these claims then can place the clients in a do harm, because well, that's what I want to describe for me. What is the harm that is done to the client in engaging with and believing in it being sort of perpetuating the mentalities behind these therapies, right. And how severe harm are we talking? What is the nature of that harm?
Right. And the same way that we can say that reparative therapy is beneficial or effective, we don't have studies that conclusively can say that reparative therapy is harmful. Okay. Even my study when I talked to individuals who said they were harmed by the study, that doesn't necessarily mean that they were harmed by the therapy. That doesn't necessarily mean that cause and effect. So from a scientific basis, we can't say reparative therapy is harmful. Okay. However, if you again step back and look at all the variables being played, it would make sense why it's harmful. And people's reports that it's harmful kind of fit together as well. That they talk about this reinforcement of negative gay stereotypes. That they discuss, and interventions are about reinforcing this, a lack of exploration, a lack of options. They discuss the interventions themselves, and the self-reports are about, again, blaming the individual for failing, not trying hard enough. And so the same things that were problematic in a sense of trying and failing, that failure, the person would start believing again that they were the failure. So that would create more depression, more shame, or more anxiety of trying to change it, and more feeling suicidal because there's no other option. That they put all their energy into this effort, and it was failing, and so drained and so burnt out, and not much caring for themselves, that they couldn't try something else, that it just leads to the only other option is suicide.
And that's really sort of the last subject area I want to dive into with you is, I mean, I have my own experiences with it, in terms of phases of suicidal ideation, and I can articulate, to some extent what that was about, what the feeling is, where, you know, what sort of the logical flow,
Mm-hmm.
you know, is. But I want to ask you of that in your experience, and to help a general audience who may sort of do their best effort at understanding
Mm-hmm.
why and how the experience of being, in this case, sort of orthodox religious and homosexual,
Mm-hmm.
and the tensions that arise from conversion therapies or anything other sort of attendant experiences.
Yeah, family environments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do we get suicidal?
Yeah, suicide, thoughts of killing yourself come from a sense of no option, and a sense of trying to control who you are, what's going on, trying to control your feelings. All humans, there's a sense of trying to control our environment or how we're feeling. And after many efforts, anxious efforts of trying to change your sexuality, your sexual orientation, and then failing to do so, and not feeling any happiness or fulfillment or reinforcement of oneself, there becomes an emptiness inside. And so the experience is just about emptiness or anxiety, emptiness and anxiety, or not just emptiness, but shame, feeling worthless, feeling bad, feeling wrong. There's something wrong with you. You're not good enough. So after years of trying to do something to make that go away, trying to overcome or to people please, and when you can't do it anymore, then depression takes over. So depression is about a shutting down, that everything is hopeless. So don't try anymore. And then because these years of failure and these years of seeing yourself as something bad, shameful, it just starts getting deeper and heavier for the person to manage. The only other way to manage that would be suicide. So suicide, it could be a way to end the pain, a way to give up, which I think giving up is important. Giving up is a form of acceptance. But because they've gone down the route of hating themselves and investing in a certain outcome, there's no acceptance of what is. It's just acceptance of what is and feeling bad about it, feeling wrong about it.
Rejecting it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, plus after years of being a masochist, of suffering and hating yourself and feeling good about that suffering, there is a sense of, well, no one's going to care. And the sense of my father would rather see me dead than being a homosexual. My kids would rather see me dead, I'm sure, than being the faggot that I am. Or my husband is so upset with me because I don't have sex with him. So the sense of just seeing oneself as something to get rid of, overlaid with the sense of trying to manage the feelings, suicide makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, and that's the problem, because it gets very very restrictive in thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I know for me, there were periods of sort of almost a sense of reactive suicidal ideation. It was just now and now. And then it flowed into what maybe in some ways would be more disturbing, but just a very calm, resolute, like, I'm backing away from the emotion, and my logic still holds. That there is no tenable solution, and I am not contributing to this world. My life is not changing or improving. There is no, it's a complete quagmire, stagnation.
But that backing away, that acceptance, those are important ways of controlling. But then you're still stuck with all of those things that I can't improve the world, or I'm not valuable. You're stuck with the shame.
Exactly.
And that's the problem with any therapy or any cultural or family environment or religious environment. If they keep reinforcing the shame, if they don't actively try to improve or dispute the shame, that's what's left with the individual's sense of being.
Suicide makes sense.
Yes. Oh, yes. From, again, these various aspects of I'm of no import. No one would want me if they knew who I really was, and I can't let this shame out because I can't I can't let this secret out because I can't handle it. So I'm just going to get rid of myself.
And I've heard, on some, from what I know are very well-meaning sort of information campaigns and so on about suicide, this notion of suicide is not an option. It's never an option. Should never be considered.
Well,
And on the other hand, I think, how do you do that? It exists. It is an option.
Yes.
It just inherently is.
it's a way to control.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate control. And we humans, again, are control freaks. We need to control, have a sense of control that we can have a hope that we can improve our state of being. And either that's through reparative therapy, or that's through living a life as in a same-sex relationship or celibacy. But we need to have some hope that what we're seeking is going to bring us a good life.
Yeah, a sense of progress and generativity.
And that's the problem with, I think, again, if we don't have accurate information or positive information about being a sexual minority, or about being religious or spiritual, or being Mormon.
It leaves us hopeless.
Lost.